Hello, everybody, and welcome to ArsenGirl Gaming. My name is Heather, and I thank you for joining me for another Sims 4 speed build. I have been having so much fun building. I think the release of the Island Living Pack just kind of like reignited all the juices inside of me for building, and I just can't get enough of building in Sulani. I've been trying to build in other worlds, but I always come back to Sulani, and so this is one of those builds. Yes, another Sulani beach build. What I wanted to try to do in this one is something that is completely out of my wheelhouse. So I was thinking about some of the houses that I see people build, and I'm like, those are so lovely. And I realized one of the common themes was that the houses that I was thinking were just so lovely were modern builds. Right? I mean, I'm not typically like a modern house kind of person in the sense that like I wouldn't probably choose to live in one, though spoiler alert, I would live in this house in a freaking heartbeat. If it was in the same location, same design, it came out really cute. I actually ended up liking it. I did some things that I have never done in a build before, and I kind of played with some styles and techniques and things that, I see people do and I'm like, oh, I should do that instead of just doing like a square box and a family room and a living room and a dining room or whatever. Now, this house has all those things, but then I tried to make it like visually appealing both from the front and from the back because I have vision. Like you're walking down the beach, holding hands with your loved one, looking at all the houses, dreaming one day of living in some of these like mansions, and you look up and there's this modern masterpiece, like its own piece of art on this lot. And that's kind of what I was going for, both from the front or the back. So if you're coming at it from the beach, that's what you're going to see. If you're just driving around the neighborhood exploring, that's what you'll see. I think I managed to pull it off. I really just really wanted it to be visually appealing, and I didn't want all of the visual spaces to be spaces that you would live in or play in. I just wanted them to be there, like this little cubby where I'm putting in the greenery right now. I just wanted that to literally be like a piece of art that was a garden. Like it's really just there for you to go, oh, that's so pretty, and to visually break up this kind of stark modern feel of the house. And in the end, I really was like, oh, I love that. And then, of course, I had to put in a garage because I imagine that the person living in this house probably has some really fancy sports cars. Oh, and I want to talk about this little area, this little, I don't know if I would call it a solarium. It's just kind of like a glassed off garden. So you can see it from the patio, but you can't really touch it. You can't really get to it. I don't know if the plants are fake or what it is, but I thought it added some visual interest and I liked that idea. And I believe this house is actually very loosely based on a house image that I found on Google. I'll do that if I'm wanting to build something, but I'm not exactly sure of like what style, or maybe I know the style, but I'm not really sure of like what the layout of the house would be. And I'll just like go to Google and I'll go through Google Images, like I'll say modern house, modern beach house, or something like that. And then I'll go through Google Images and find something that I think is appealing to me and see how closely I can recreate it. And I'm mentioning that because this house, I believe, is one of those. I no longer have the reference picture because I built it a little bit earlier this summer. But I believe where I put the hot tub was actually like a swimming pool up on that upper deck. But since we can't put pools up there without like losing the space underneath, it wouldn't have worked for my design. So that's why I kind of built the hot tub the way I did. And then I ended up like extending the house because I needed to make it have a lot of livable space because, of course, it's mansion ish. A mini mansion, a mini mansion. Yeah. I mean, maybe what would you call something between a mansion? and a mini mansion. Somewhere, kind of falls somewhere in between there. But there's a lot of indoor and outdoor space. So I wanted to make sure that made it kind of feel like it was like no matter where you were in the house, you were living both indoors and outdoors. So you've got this covered patio. It's completely covered from the elements except for the sides, but it's covered with this glass roof so that the sun is constantly coming in. You have light, and of course, at night it would glow very beautifully and be lit very nicely. And then I wanted to use a lot of windows throughout the whole entire rest of the house. And a lot of the railings and so forth are glass because it's all about being that stark and like really modern look. And honestly, I know every time I build in Sulani, I kind of talk about living in Florida and the houses that are around where I live. And this is kind of roughly, very loosely based on houses that you will see periodically. A lot of the houses here, though, are like the mansions, I guess, are very different. Some are like built in the 20s. They have that old world, that old Hollywood kind of feel to them. And then you've got these modern monstrosities. Not that this is a monstrosity, mind you, but like these just modern, like out there houses that you're like, oh my gosh. And I remember when I lived in another part of Florida, one of the houses I loved driving by on the boat, we would go out on the boat, go out in the ocean or the Gulf, and go up the coast. And there was this one house. And I can't replicate it in The Sims because the part of it that I loved the most was on the rooftop. It had this like huge observatory built. I mean, so it's a mansion, a single family home, but it was a mansion, huge, right on the water, had its own private beach, and it had this observatory. And it was this big dome on the upper level outside, and you could see the telescope. I was like, what? But could you imagine that? Like how dark the ocean, the Gulf gets at night. There's no lights out there if you're looking out over the water. So you could look out of your own telescope and just look at the stars and I don't know. That kind of stuff just like tickles me and it kind of like gets in my head and then it makes me think about like what's the kind of people that live in these houses? Like, is it a family of two wandering around an 8,000 square foot house? Or maybe it's a family of four in an 18,000 square foot house, or maybe it's just one person that owns a 12,000 square foot house. I mean, it's kind of crazy when you think about it because these houses are like big enough for, an entire like generation, like multi-generational family to live in. Like you could probably have, easily in some of these houses a dozen people live there and nobody would ever run into each other. That's how big some of these houses are. So all of this kind of goes through my brain as I'm building. And I don't know, it must be because I just love the tropical I love living in a tropical area so much that I love looking at houses a little bit more than I did like when I lived up north and was just in the suburbs. Because in the suburbs, a lot of the houses are just very much the same. But when you get started talking about people with a lot of money and a lot of disposable income, the houses just become a little bit more interesting, a lot more ostentatious. And I have fun kind of trying to build that, but keeping my like middle class sensibilities in them to some extent. It's kind of like a war inside of my head because I'm like, okay, so this is a mansion. The people that live here probably have, $10 million in the bank, if not more. They can do whatever they want, and everything should be opulent and luxurious. And then I get inside and I'm like, well, would I live here? And then I design it based on how I think I would live there. And now in this house, I did not decorate the inside. I did do a little bit of decoration on the outside living spaces because I definitely wanted to show off how I was envisioning them and kind of how they were used in the reference photo. But in the inside, I left it empty so that I could put it up on the gallery and you guys could download it and do whatever you want. And that being said, okay, let me go back to my little wandering about how I decorate. So I have been house hunting for a family member in my area, and this family member's budget is a little bit higher than like my budget when I house hunt. So I've been getting to go and kind of look at these houses that fall, I would say, let's just say the range I'm looking is anywhere from like 800,000 to $2 million. And I just go on Zillow and I just go and I look at these houses and I see these houses and outside I'm like, oh, that house is so gorgeous. Oh my gosh, it's beautiful. I'm looking at houses on the water. I'm looking at houses on golf courses, but they all have one thing in common. The outside is just like mind-boggling beautiful. They have views, the pictures are taken to show their best light, all of that. And then you go to Zillow and you go through all the pictures. They have 50 pictures, right? So you're going through the pictures and you're like, why are you asking $1.5 million for this house? Why are you asking $2 million for this house? It looks like they went to Home Depot or IKEA. No offense, because I love both places, but they went to these places and that's how they decorated and did their kitchens. Like when I'm paying 1.6 or $2 million for a house, now granted, I am not personally, but if I were and I was looking for a house, like you better have it nice inside. I want good countertops. I want good cabinets. And if it's 20 years old, then it better not feel like it's 20 years old because I am not giving you top dollar for ick, right? Because that's kind of what it is. If you ever just want to amuse yourself, go to Zillow in a high cost of living area, put in these dollar amounts, look at where your dream locations are, and open up the pictures after falling in love with the outside of a house and just go, you should have paid for a stager. That's all I come down to. I'm like, they should have paid for someone to stage the house because it's really mind boggling how atrocious some of the interiors of these houses are. Mind boggling, like literally mind boggling. And I'm just going to say it one more time, mind boggling. So, anyway, so I think about that a lot too when I am like building these houses because in my head, I'm building these houses. And you'll notice if you've ever looked at any of my builds on the gallery, my description is as if I'm a realtor presenting this house for you guys to buy it for your Sims. Because as I'm building them, that's kind of how I'm always thinking too. Like if somebody was house hunting and coming to look at this house, like what would they be thinking? Oh, I love the stone exterior. It just adds so much texture to the exterior of this white house and just deepens the view, or I don't know, some silly like drivel about the house, but I'm always kind of thinking that way. Like how would a realtor be describing this house? What would be the comments that they would use to kind of catch you in that little 30-second blurb? And it's kind of funny. I didn't realize I did that until I started really building more regularly for my channel. And it's kind of enjoyable for me. I build because it's kind of a creative outlet, and I know that I will never be on par as some of my friends are. I mean, some of my friends are like freaking amazing builders. They can just sit down using no reference photos or whatever and just build like these crazy out of this world houses, and I'm always like super jealous that they can do that. I, on the other hand, have so much fun building that I don't really care that I don't do that. But I want everything I build to be something that either I or my Sims would eventually want to be in. And I've told you before, if you've watched my videos, that's kind of how I judge if my house is good, is if I would want to play in it or if I would want to live in it. And so far, there's only been a couple that I've done that I've been like, I probably shouldn't edit that and put it on the channel because even though nobody watches my builds, they should not be subjected to this if they do watch, you know? And don't get me wrong, I don't mean nobody watches my builds, but I get it. I get that I am not an amazing builder, and And I am thankful for every single one of you that does watch and does comment, because you guys mean the world to me. And those of you that are watching and don't comment, you also mean the world to me. Uh, because this is just my way of sharing with you guys things that I love, or things that I'm enjoying. And that's really what my whole channel is about anyway. And so I don't know. I feel like if one person watches it, one person enjoys it, then all the hours of work that go into making one of these videos is so worth it to me, because really I do what I do online in any way, shape, or form only because I want to share a little bit of me with you guys. I guess that if that doesn't sound too silly or corny or whatever, but that's really what it is. So it does mean the world to me. So when I say things like a lot of people don't watch, I'm not discounting the people that do watch, because I love, love, love you guys so much. But what I'm saying is I feel like I have a little bit more freedom to like ramble like this, and just kind of tell you guys what I'm thinking. I know in the past, a lot of my builds, I did just talk about the build and didn't really like ramble or share my thoughts or my feelings or my stories. And I've started doing that more because I'm doing more builds. So that gives me more time to just kind of hang out and talk to you guys. And I've thought about like starting a podcast. Like Stephanie Simarkey, my bestie, and I have talked about starting a podcast. We haven't quite got it off the ground yet, but I just like talking. And so I guess this is my way of kind of doing like my Christian service to you guys. And sorry, that's a Heather McDonald podcast thing. But anyway, it is just kind of my way to share a little bit of myself with you guys, both in my build, but also just in my commentary. And I did ask you in one of my previous builds to share with me in the comments if you enjoy me talking this way, or if you would prefer me to just focus on the builds, or even if you would just prefer me to have music playing while the speed build is happening. I would love your feedback. So if you guys could comment in the comment section, let me know, or tweet me or DM me or go on my Discord and message me on my Discord and let me have any feedback you have. I am totally open to it because I'd like to hear what you guys think, and not necessarily meaning that I will change the way I do things, but if you give me enough feedback, then I can take it into account and then consider it for future videos or even future projects that I may do here on the channel. So anyway, that I would love to hear from you guys. And also, I did mention this earlier, this is up in the gallery. It is unfurnished. It is plumbed. It does have the kitchen, as you're seeing. Even has a little pool bath right here that I am doing. And it is ready for you guys to download, make it your own. And as always, if you do download it and if you use it in your game, if you change it substantially and re-upload it back into the gallery, if you would just tag me or message me or tweet me or something and let me know, I would love to check it out and possibly tour it on an upcoming video. That would be very cool. I've got a couple of those coming, and I would love it. I just love to see the spin you guys put on these, because I build them, and I encourage anybody who wants to grab them and do your thing with them, because I want to see where your imaginations take you and what you do with the shell or even the finished product that I've given you. Because sometimes your taste is not the same as my taste, and I totally get that and I totally appreciate that. And I look forward to just seeing what you guys do. So, all right, that's what I got to say about all of that. We're about getting to the point where I'm going to share my photos of the finished product with you. And I just want to tell you guys how much I absolutely adore this house. I did move a sim into it, a single movie star sim. I did his create a sim like ages ago. And if I remember when I upload this, I will try to tag that video right here. I may forget, so you might have to go look through my create a sim videos. But I moved him in. I didn't furnish it, so he was just wandering around. But I was like, he's just going to live outside anyway. But this house ended up coming out so So good. I love it. And now that we have the new staircases, I want to try to do another modern home and work with those staircases a little bit and see if maybe I can build a modern beach house that just keeps going up since we have that freedom. But anyway, I would love to hear what you guys think of this build. I would also love it if you would give me a thumbs up to let me know you watched. And of course, if you're new to my channel, I, as always, encourage you to go ahead and subscribe and then ring the bell, because once you do that, that lets YouTube know that you would like to be notified when I post something new on the channel. And that way you don't miss out on anything that I have coming down the line. And I do have lots more coming, including more speed builds, and a few of those will probably be in Solani, just in case you were wondering, and some other Sims 4 content, more of my Rags to Riches Let's Play, and some surprises. So you'll definitely want to keep your eyes peeled. And as always, I thank you guys for watching, and I look forward to doing this for you again soon. Have a great one.